Hey guys, Shimon7 here again, but you can call me Chip, and I am back with another video. Um, as you saw recently on my most recent video, if you haven't, go check it out. I was very excited about the new update stuff, and in the new update were some really cool refines for units I really like. Lyon and L'Arachel, as you can see on the screen, being from Sacred Stones, I like them by default, but they're also really cool characters. Um, so in this video, I'm going to be covering what I think would be the possibility of their weapon refine, or not the, either way, um, as well as some of the other update stuff that I will be covering in Fire Emblem Heroes. Um, if we go to the notifications in Fire Emblem Heroes, we can see that more stuff with the Divine Codes, Tempest Trails getting updated, Aether Raids stuff, the friend limit increase is cool, the combat manuals obviously, more weapon refines, and Mjölnir Strike is getting updated. What this video is going to be talking about is I'm going to be covering the other stuff real quick, and the Theorycraft will be at the end of the video. If you check the time bar, it will be segmented, so feel free to skip around. But right now, I'm going to start off with the Divine Code stuff. As I covered in my speculation video with Spring Marisa and stuff, the Divine Codes are free combat manuals, basically. Well, quote-unquote free. We have to use the resource, the Divine Codes, to access them. As the Limited Ephemera units are each month, it seems that the normal Divine Codes for the normal compile list are going to be each year, because last year around this time the first one started, now we are getting the second one. Some more units, more paths are going to be added, including 3 houses, which will be really cool. Some honorable mentions that will maybe be in there are maybe the Byleths, one of the Byleths, this encounter in Ruptured Sky for male Byleth, and Fury 4 in Ruptured Sky for female Byleth, as well as Wrath and Chill Speed and stuff like that. With a possibility of Hubert probably being one of the more lacking Fire Emblem 3 Houses characters in this game in terms of skills. There's also the possibility of Hilda. There's quite a few seasonal ones as well, where with Summer Dorothea. Summer Ingrid is a maybe, but I don't think so. She's a bit too good and premium in terms of fodder as well as the unit herself. And then a lot of the 3 houses characters were actually 4-star focuses or Tempest Trail units. So there's no telling what actual 3 houses characters will be available in this path, but that is really cool nonetheless. If we scroll down, the new Divine Codes will also be able to be used in the original Divine Codes paths, so you don't have to worry about if you don't have enough for the unit you have probably been working on for a while, because it takes 6,000 Divine Codes to fully finish out a path. That's quite a bit, especially if you just play moderately, so don't worry about that. The second year's Divine Codes will also work for the first years, so there's that. Now for the Tempest Trials, a new scoring update thing. It's pretty neat. It's probably a bit similar to how Pawns of Loki and Rooker Sieges works, where you get a little bit of extra stuff while also scoring more. So it seems like it's more rewards, which is great. More resources and rewards are always a good thing, so that's awesome, and I hope that it works out. We'll only really get more information on it probably when the next Tempest Trials happens to show up. So that's Tempest Trials. It's pretty cool. Now Aether Raids, tier 39 will be added into the Vault of Heaven with a cool new background and stuff like that. If you are a Aether Raids person and you really enjoy Aether Raids, then cool for you. I'm really kind of only just getting into it. I'm not doing the best, but I'm trying. So Aether Raids, cool stuff. New Vault of Heaven update. So if you're probably going to end up needing some high merged mythic units to even like think about getting up there. But either way, it's mainly just extra rewards. Whereas the mid, like the low Vault of Heaven, as well as higher scoring just in Aether Raids normally, have good rewards nonetheless. Um, so the limit on the friends list is being upgraded by 50 friends, so that's awesome. I know I've had to delete a few friends recently in the past, um, and that kind of stinks, especially if they just haven't played in a while, but the unit they have is pretty good. It doesn't matter. We're going to be getting a boost of 50, which is just helpful. It could have been 100, but 50 is good to start off with. And then obviously the thing I was very excited about was Spring Marisa, Dancer Eldigan, Morgan. And then the rest obviously are still pretty useful. They have good skills and stuff like that. But in terms of how the Divine Codes ends up going, we only really get, like, at max, the 600 required to get the 2 5-star exclusive ones, which kind of stinks, especially for this one, because to be able to get both the 5-star exclusives and Dancer Eldigan, we'll need at least 700 limited Divine Codes. So unless you are really, really looking forward to merging up your Spring Marisa or your Morgan, Eldigan in saving 500 heroic grails is a really, really nice thing. So, and in all honesty, I love Spring Marisa and I think Morgan's awesome, but their fodder is only moderate. Spring Marisa's fodder is on a 4-star unit, as well as, or her main fodder, because Flashing Carrot is unique, but it's kind of outclassed. Speed Defense Link is on Norn, and Flyer Guidance is on Trevant, and it's also a seal. In terms of Morgan, she has Guard, she has Polar Serpent, pretty rare and useful skills, but overall it would just be, she's not the best for fodder. She's mainly probably for merges for anyone who has Morgans. I don't have a female Morgan, but either way, still cool. If you are debating on whether or not to get Morgan or Spring Marisa or Eldigan, saving till the end is obviously a possibility. You can do that if you like, or you could just spend your Divine Codes and hope that we get at least 700, enough for the 3 more rare units from this. Going on to what I do want to talk about specifically is the Weapon Refine update. It's going to be, I'm so happy that Lyon and L'Arachel both get their Weapon Refines, as well as Ira and Ishtar, really cool. And Noe, Halloween Noe for that matter, means that we are likely going to start getting refines for seasonal prep weapons, and that is really cool because that also means the possibility of Halloween Noe being on the new power banner, which means seasonal units on non-seasonal banners would be really, really cool, because then we would just have access to the unit herself. This is obviously not going to be Theorycrafting Noe, Ira, or Ishtar, but some things that could be possible. Ira's Blade is kind of outclassed. I mean, immediately upon Ira coming out, people would switch out Ira's Blade for Slang Edge so that she could have a 1-turn cooldown Regnal Astra, and all you needed was Infantry Pulse or Quicken Pulse, and she first turn Regnal Astra, very strong. But hopefully Ira's Blade will turn into something useful enough. Maybe it'll turn into a special cooldown count weapon. Right now it just has Flashing Blade built into it. So hopefully Ira's Blade turns into something that can make her keep up with the now current meta units. Like Fallen Marita is way better in that sense because she has immediate desperation. If Ira's Blade turned into immediate desperation, that would be awesome. With Grimoire, it is an aerobatics tome basically. So if it refined into something like guidance, that for everything, that'd be cool. But I really have no idea what the Grimoire could refine into. It's just really unique and pretty neat in its own right. and then we're going to skip over Naglfar and Evaldi because that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. Mjölnir, kind of weird to say because Mjölnir Strike is a game mode, but Mjölnir itself likely going to be, I don't know, it's okay for what it is. I believe it has a special cooldown count as well as Darting Blow built into it, but it is kind of outclassed by Tail2, who has Darting Blow as a refine as well as a Wrath as her weapon. It's just Ishtar could use a little bit of a buff, so who knows what it could be. And speaking of Mjölnir Strike getting the update. Shield Face being active for 2 days instead of just the one that it normally has been. So that's cool. And then the new summoner structures get a bonus. Veld and Chris getting added to the Heroic Grail pool. And then these few other extra update stuff. But now onto the main thing that I wanted to talk about. Are the weapon refines for Lyon and L'Arachel. We're going to start with Lyon because he is someone who has been waiting very, very patiently for weapon refine. Lyon himself is still not horrible. He has pretty good stat spread, and you could definitely run something other than his Pref Tome. But being an infantry Raven Tome red mage, he is in immediate combat with Sophia. Obviously this is Resplendent Sophia, so the stats would be 2 lower if it was just base Sophia, but even with her stats being 2 lower, everything is just slightly lower than Lyon's, except her defense, which is a little bit higher. And also, obviously, Eternal Tome has its refine, so on enemy phase she's going to get more defense than Lyon would have at base. But they are in immediate combat. Sophia is easier to merge up because she doesn't require Grails. So overall, these purple-haired red tome infantry mages are in a pretty decent combat. So what a possible refine for Lyon specifically could be is something similar to what Bowie has, where Bowie has he originally started with an Owl Tome. Lyon did not, sure, but Bowie's refine turned him into a Raven Tome unit with conditional close counter, only having close counter against physical units and not against dragons. Bowie ended up is like the only effective user of close ward in the game, where close ward can give him retaliation against dragons, and his weapon gives him retaliation against all physical units. So that just makes Bowie very specific, but so Lyon having by default Raven Tome weapon, I think that would be really cool. However, in another case, I feel like since Lyon's res is higher than his defense, in opposition to Bowie, where Bowie has higher defense than res, I feel like Lyon could actually make use of a refine similar to Julia's, where Julia has close counter for dragons specifically, and also it neutralizes the defense res targeting that dragons have, the lowest of the defense and res. So Lyon's refine being either close counter for physical units or close counter for dragons specifically means that he can also effectively use close ward or close foil. Hopefully he could have more Julia's refine than Bowie's. Well, the Bowie refine would be really good. I feel like Julia's would make more sense because close foil is actually in the summon pool, where close ward is not just yet. So Lyon, I feel like, could definitely make use of these skills very easily. Like, even if it's exactly like Inscribed Tome or exactly like Naga, that would be completely fine. If it had to do with like a little bit of a boost, it could be similar to Fallen Lyon, where he has damage reduction against ranged weapons. I feel like that would be very helpful to him. Obviously, they work on a different spectrum because regular Lyon is a red tome infantry unit, Fallen Lyon is green. So if Naglfar turns into something like Blood Tome, or Inscribed Tome, or Naga. I think any of those would be great for him. It would be just enough of a boost for him to be very useful outside of just being a Raven Tome unit. He could effectively tank a lot more, as well as retaliate against really good stuff. Some negatives that could possibly happen is it just turns into a triangle adept weapon. And even so, where Cecilia got a triangle adept weapon, she also got a flyer effectiveness. I don't know if Lyon would have anything like that. If it did end up just being pure triangle adept, it would be cool if he got an effectiveness against bows and maybe daggers. That would be cool. And despite him having colorless advantage, if it was effective against all colors of bows and all colors of daggers, I think that would just be pretty neat and pretty helpful for him specifically. Also, if it could have an effectiveness against mages, because the only mage effective weapons we have in the game are the Kibi Paddle on Halloween Sakura and Guinevere's Aureola. So if Lyon had an effectiveness against mages, it kind of makes sense in the Demon King way, because when he destroys the Sacred Stones, he's kind of like getting rid of all that magic, that would stop him as the Demon King. So either way, any of these would be great. I hope it's not Triangle Depth. It is Triangle Depth. You can keep running whatever other tomes work on well on him. The most recent Valentine's Red tome is pretty good for him. Anyways, that has been Lyon. That is what I think. Hopefully it's something more similar to the Naga Refine, but if not, I hope it's good nonetheless. Now we're going to move on to L'Arachel. L'Arachel is one of my favorite characters from Fire Emblem Sacred Stones, and Evaldi has been was bad from the start. But overall, it could just be better. It worked okay for what it is. It gives her +3 defense for some reason, but whatever. Evaldi has been outclassed by many tomes. As like on my L'Arachel, I have the Flora Guide, which is just a great tome for her. It's just really good. But L'Arachel, being a blue tome Cavalier, is in contest with Reinhardt, one of the most common units to build up in Fire Emblem Heroes, if not the most common. Reinhardt is very different than how L'Arachel functions. Reinhardt has decent defenses because his stats do not go into his speed, where L'Arachel actually has an effective and workable speed stat. But Reinhardt is mainly about the damage output in his Brave tome. L'Arachel, oops, that's the music being done. What happened? Okay, we're chilling. I apologize. Never mind. Okay. We good? I think we're good. I'm sorry about this. Anyways, L'Arachel has effective, workable res and speed, so a Refine would definitely help her. It could help her in the bulk sense as well as in the offensive sense. A negative that could possibly happen is it is exactly the same as Mage Erica's Gleipnir tome, where Gleipnir requires the foe to be at 100% HP, similar to how base Evaldi is in base Gleipnir. Where the Refine for Gleipnir is pretty good in that it inflicts attack res defense -4 on the foe and neutralizes the unit's penalties, but it still requires the 100% HP on the foe. So I hope it's not exactly like Gleipnir, but if it is similar to Gleipnir, I just hope it's not the 100%. If it was like, if they're above 75% HP, I feel like that could work for L'Arachel, but overall I am not looking forward to that specifically. Something I think would work very well is if it was basically low speed res, maybe a little bit stronger. Maybe exactly like Flora Guide, where Flora Guide inflicts speed res -5, I believe, on foes within 2 spaces. So it's basically a speed res rain, but for any blue tome that has the Flora Guide. but I feel like a lull speed res in Evolve would not only help her damage output, but also help, since it neutralizes the uh, the buffs to their speed and res, it helps her also in offensive capabilities. So the +3 attack and speed from base Evolve when they're at 100% HP, I feel like that could change slightly to maybe attack and speed +4 during combat if they're above 75%. I think if there has to be an HP threshold, just make it better and not make it 100%. This is just obviously speculation, but I hope that L'Arachel's Refine definitely just makes her better. Because she does have some moderate combat. I got the Forma Springcatria, so my Springcatria definitely has some really good skills on her, but obviously she is seasonal, and my L'Arachel is +10. So hopefully this Refine ends up being worth it. I think she'll be still pretty good nonetheless, because like I said, if these refines don't pan out, there's always other inheritable skills that are available. Granted, that's not the way we want these to go, but if it does end up that way, then I think that's all we can really accept. Everyone's going to complain at IS anyway, so really, whose fault is it? Anyways, that's going to be it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think the refines will be. Even for Noe, Ira, and Ishtar, let me know. I am definitely hoping for some good stuff. And if I'm incorrect in what I get, then all I'm asking is that they're workable. But anyways, that is going to be it for the video. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next video. But until then, goodbye.